Welcome to Tabletop Gaming with Juice. This video is hashtag my 30-day world day 5. And the question is, what event in your world altered its history? Well, you know from previous videos, I've had a ton of events that have altered the world's history. I want to focus on a specific story, though, that relates to what my player characters did. And I haven't read all these questions. I'm sure something like this might come up later, but I have a town called Pine Run, and in that I had my players go in. It was Nate from WSD20, and it was my wife Paula. It was my friend Brett, and I think I also had Dustin and Nicole. May have been just Dustin actually at this point. Actually, no. Dustin and Nicole, I don't think, had joined us yet. Maybe they did. I don't know. Anyways, they had went into what were called the Haunted Mines of Pine Run, or the Pine Run Mines. And when they were there, I don't remember why they were going, but they went in there and found that there were large, giant spiders, which they cleared out. And then they found that there was a earth elemental. The earth elemental is what drove the miners out. They thought it was haunted, but it was an earth elemental that was messing with them to keep them away from itself. In those mines, they found a tomb to a forgotten warrior, which many believe is the hero who saved the world from the god who was going to be rebuilt. A previous deity many knew wasn't dead, who was petrified. Cut up in many pieces and petrified. So they went through that and they found like a map, and I think they found like a magical arrow and things like that. But they freed up the mines. They cleared them out, cleared out the tomb, and put Pine Run's mines back in business. This wasn't something I originally planned. I just kind of was winging it. I was like, hey, this is a poor town. They don't have a lot of income. And so with this, they started the mines up again. And it led to animosity between two cities, because the local city was buying all their material from another city that had a monopoly on it. Well, when the Pine Run mines opened up, they changed who they bought from because it was cheaper. So then Sandstrom and Pine Run had a lot of issues. Well, the players killed a bunch of Sandstrom guards thinking they were bandits. Probably because I had a little bit of poor role playing, but it was what it was. So then that raised the animosity. It was really fun. The idea for my campaign had nothing to do with that. It's something the players did. It was a little bit because one of them was just a murder hobo. My wife didn't help that, but my friend Dustin was the murder hobo. My wife didn't prevent it. She cast fireballs and stuff. Nate from WSD20 was our cleric and was just kind of like, meh, it sucks, but he just went along with it. It was still fun. But, I was still telling the story I wanted to in the background. We had another guy who joined us named Steve, and I did a cut scene to give the players the opportunity to be introduced to the big bad evil guy without actually being face to face with them and things like that. Steve didn't like it. The other players said they loved it. They liked being able to know who the bad guy was and things like that. But that one event of freeing those mines was a domino effect. It changed the economy of the area. It changed how different cities treated each other. It changed a lot, actually. And that group, I think if we would have kept playing, which I guess we still could play, but that group was going to screw so much up in that world with just a bunch of events, I could tell. It was the typical murder hobo thing. But so that's a big event. Obviously, I've had other big events in my world. The Tiamat coming up in my world. Um, the god who was basically killed, split up into multiple body parts, and petrified. His reign on everything was so bad, but I usually leave that very vague, and so that people hear about it, but there's nothing. It was so long ago that it's usually a rumor, and there's still cultists that want to bring this guy back because they think that they'll be rewarded, and so that's always a big thing. I've had, let's see, what else. The very first time I was doing my world building, there was an event that led to the monsters coming from underground. You had all the dwarves came from underground, elves came from underground, orcs, all of that. The idea in my world is that there's multiple layers. There's the surface world, and then there's underground. And the backstory is that the people underground did not interact with surface people. In fact, they didn't know each other existed at all. Okay? It was that isolated. The underground people and everything, they knew of each other. You had drow and normal elves and dwarves and Svirfnevlin and whatever. Well, they kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper and finding other things from forgotten eras down underground. And they dug so deep that they also unlocked portals to other worlds that led to things coming from underground that actually pushed them up in retreat. The idea was demons, and imagine like Galarian's World Wound, except instead of it being on the surface, it's just at the deepest parts of the planet. And only in small spots, not like a huge gaping spot, but just small spots. And it's basically like a portal to another world. The GIF, that's how they came to the world. That's my justification for how mind flayers and, just the most evil things you can think of, that's how they got there. Is from the depths of this planet being discovered and explored and opening portals. The details, hazy. Many think it's just from digging. There's probably some rituals, things like that happened. But that's the idea. That's the premise. And so when that happened, orcs and dwarves and everyone came to the surface. And blocked off. Most of them blocked off the path to go back underground. Because, again, they're running for their lives, basically. After many years of being settled on the main surface, trying to figure out how to survive, they started having animosity, different dwarves. In fact, the dwarves split Eastern and Western Dwarven territory. They don't like each other. Eastern dwarves kind of are more civil, they're the samurai culture I've discussed before. Western territory dwarves are more barbaric, think Vikings, but without the boats. So they're kind of landlocked between a mountain and the sea, and to the south are a bunch of orcs. So they're kind of stuck where they're at, and there's not a lot of food. Very tough for them. Very harsh. Whereas the Eastern dwarves have allied with humans. They have problems with the elves to the north of them, but they also fight the orcs to the south. So, and they're between those mountains and the other sea border on the east. So there's that. So the biggest event is probably, thousands and thousands of years ago when the great evils came from underground and pushed the inhabitants of underground to the surface. That's probably the biggest event. But the most fun event for me was when my players freed cleared out the mines, and it led to some conflict with other cities and stuff. So yeah. So that's it for this one. This was day 5, I believe. And so I hope you enjoyed this. Would love to hear your thoughts below. If you've had some crazy events that happened in your world. Again, I love hearing about this stuff, and I like talking about it. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace. Hashtag my 30-day world.